Hello, welcome to Geeks and Gaijins. I'm the Gaijin John.
And I'm the geek Tom.
And you join us on it's nighttime for me in Japan, and
it's about midday here.
Perfect timing. Well, so we're either good morning or good evening. If you're in the middle, what can you do? That's not how podcasts work. All right?
Yes. We're not live right now, John, so it's whatever time person who's listening to this podcast is listening to us at.
That's just numerative determinism, Tom.
I hope you have a good 24 hours, listener.
I don't. I don't. You need to have a good 48 hours. See, it's better. It's more.
Oh, no. He out-wholesomed me.
Exactly.
Got to step up my game.
We are the podcast where we look at things from both the East, me being in Japan, and Thomas
being in sunny England.
In the West. East to West. Nishi to Higashi, and all that jazz. So this week we have many topics.
So we've got some new news from Japan in the form of a new character for Smash. The Smash Brothers Ultimate DLC. And this one seems to be getting a lot more attention than the usual announcement, for good or for bad. So we thought we'd wade in on that.
Yes, we will wade through the controversy with our boots well oiled. I don't know where you do the boots to make them waterproof.
Mine are still muddy from last week, so might as well keep going.
Well, we're going to go further into that, because after that we have we're going to look at some more lovely mobile video games, because I have some stories about those from Japan, but Thomas tends to get quite emotional about that, so I apologize in advance, listeners.
I am very much looking forward to this section of the podcast.
Okay. Yes. Then we have the usual snack break, as always. Where's the snack gone? Somewhere. There it is. And then also we have, to finish off, or possibly an entirely new podcast, depends how long he takes on it, we have Tom's review of Carole Tuesday.
Hello, I watched an anime. I'm going to tell you what I think about it.
And somehow just... Oh dear. You might have, if you listened to the last episode, our Crunchyroll Awards, you might have heard some opinions, from Thomas about that. Now, his more complete opinions.
Yes.
But first, Thomas, do you like Fire Emblem?
I can safely say I don't think I've ever played a Fire Emblem game in my life.
I have played 2. One on an emulator that was a Game Boy Advance game that I played on my phone, and the other one is Three Houses, which I've played through once. Though one of our mutual friends I happen to know has played through it at least 3 times.
That makes sense. There's at least 3 houses, at least.
And in Fire Emblem 3 Houses, there are 3 houses. Like in Japan, there are 4 seasons.
Yes, those are exactly equivocal. Which storyline did you go through?
I went through the Black... technically, she played through it 4 times, because there are 4 proper endings. I did the Black Eagles. I did the Black Eagles where you side with Edelgard.
And what prompted you to make that decision there, John?
Mostly because the purple-haired Bernie, who is Best Girl...
I knew it would come down to waifus.
It's not Edelgard Best Girl, though it is. Bernie is Best Girl. She needs to be protected, and then she'll shoot an arrow over my head and impale the person who's about to kill us. Because, God, she's Best Girl. But no, we're talking about a different kind of Best Girl. The new entrance to Smash Brothers, the last of this round of character DLC, is going to be Byleth, the player protagonist. But you always forget that's their actual canon name because you name them something like Link or Poop Pants. Or something like Dingus. Watch our Twitch streams on Fire Emblem 3? No, on Final Fantasy 3. How many games in the Fire Emblem series are there?
Well, if you were paying attention to Sakurai counting on his fingers in binary, John. He counts in binary, John. It was like 18 or something.
Yeah, it's 18 or 17.
17.
Yeah. I did say to you, he is a computer programmer. They use binary all the time.
I know, but still, he counts on his fingers in binary. He counts on his fingers in binary, John! It's weird. It's a bit amusing. It's so very Sakurai. I love it.
And somehow he absolutely loves Kirby so much that he's still bottom trash tier in all multiplayer tournaments.
Isn't he the creative Kirby?
Yes, he is.
So I think what he's doing here is he understands that if Kirby were to be buffed anymore, he'd be too powerful and no one could stop him.
Why do you think in the story mode of Smash Bros, all the characters get killed except for Kirby? Because he's so awesome. And it's Kirby who ends up having to essentially revive all of them.
Kirby will one day inhale the heavens.
Indeed. So everyone wanted basically anything but this. I will have the listeners know, and Thomas does indeed know because I predicted it to him, that it's probably just going to be a Fire Emblem character or something.
Yeah, that was...
I actually thought it was so obvious when messaging Tom about it that I'd forgotten I messaged Tom because I was like, that's too obvious. I want to message that.
Yeah, we speculated a whole bunch on what it would be just because of that teaser video that they put out, which was like, they set a YouTube premiere for like 3 days in advance. I was like, why are you taunting me, Sakurai? You don't do this normally.
Because it counts in binary, Tom. That's you've already said how the mastermind rolls.
He's crazy. He's a madman. Yeah, and we had absolutely no idea because we were all assuming, based on all prior evidence and zero communication from Nintendo, that it would be another third-party character. So we were just all reeling.
Because so far, for Smash Bros., for some reason you don't know one of the biggest games of all time. It's a fighting game where you can play any of, essentially, a stupid amount of characters. Mostly from Nintendo first-party stuff, and it's on the Switch, but also obvious outliers like Sonic, Snake, Cloud from Final Fantasy, all that jazz. But in the recent set of DLC, which is the Fighting Pass, in which you get the characters and some associated goodies with them, what are the last ones before these? You had Piranha Plant, which wasn't part of it to begin with.
Yeah, he was a free DLC character, wasn't he?
He was free DLC if you downloaded before a certain time. I think he's now part of... I don't know. Don't quote me on that, Editing John.
And then, as part of... the first character was Joker from Persona 5, then we got the heroes from Dragon Quest, Banjo-Kazooie from Banjo-Kazooie.
Banjo-Kazooie? Yes, he can, Zooey.
Yes, and then we got Terry Bogard, a character I legitimately don't think I'd ever heard of before, from a really popular fighting game, Fatal Fury.
Indeed.
So I was at that level of just, what could he possibly pull out next? I have absolutely no idea what to do after both Banjo and then Terry. But yeah, it turned out it was just a Fire Emblem character.
But what were people expecting?
Okay, so this is a bit of unfortunate Twitter timing in that I believe the Devil May Cry Twitter teased something on that was going to be released on the same day as the announcement, but it was actually just an update for one of their games, not an announcement that Dante was coming. So yeah, people were really expecting it to be Dante, and even if they weren't, the Smash community was still going to be a little hostile to another Fire Emblem character, especially as part of, because I mean, there's not really a great time to announce a new Fire Emblem character to the Smash community at all. But I believe that this DLC train that they set up has had such hype behind it that they really weren't hoping for it.
They've got so many big characters, I'm just going to say, in that download, from non-first party things, that you'd feel that they one of their complaints was they have too many sword characters, which is people use a sword. Oh my god. There's now 8 Fire Emblem characters in a game that has, including this DLC, 75 playable characters. There's 8 from a franchise, like a big Nintendo first-person franchise. I don't think they're complaining the fact that Mario has like.
I believe both Mario and Pokemon have more characters, although that might be counting Pokemon Trainer as 3 separate characters.
Also, it was the fact that like, we wanted something different. It's just like practically it. In terms one of the main reasons I initially predicted it. So these are the reasons I am smart. Issue number 35. Essentially, they have new DLC planned for the new Fire Emblem game. It's going to be coming out, I think, relatively soon. I don't know. I don't follow it that much. But essentially, this puts it back in the headlines. There was also rumors when they announced Byleth that they were actually planning on a different character, and that got shelved because it wasn't working through in playtesting. So they're just like, oh, well, this character that might be... Because they've just announced a second season pass of 5 characters. So there are rumors that Byleth...
6 characters.
Yes, Byleth was meant to be the first one of that, and then this mystery character be number 6. Let's say Dante. Though we all know that if you want to play Dante in a fighting game, you need to play the amazing hit Smash on the PS Vita, PlayStation All-Stars.
No. Okay.
No,
yes.
So the thing is, his reason that doesn't make sense, number one, the timing of it's a Fire Emblem character, cool. Also, I think the fact Fire Emblem is so big in Japan, is so big. I don't think people like, oh, it's just another turn-based. These things are so big in Japan. And here's a newsflash: Japan don't care about your feelings, like at all. Like, especially with like the Pokemon boycott or whatever, they're like, oh, it's just some Americans who just whine. That is what they think about most of the internet. It's like a couple of Americans that whine, and oh look, the numbers just keep on going up and up because most people don't care. Not that I'm accusing America of being an extremely whiny place, especially when I'm from the UK. I do apologize, but no. And second, this was pointed out quite well to someone who shall remain nameless because I've forgotten their name. But essentially, ending with a character like Byleth, a strong first-party Nintendo character, makes sense because that is not going to drive sales of the next DLC pack. The next DLC pack, if they have Dante as the first fighter for the new DLC pack,
yeah,
that's gonna like people go, I don't care, I'm in, I'll buy it all.
Yeah, you need something on the level of Joker for your first character on the new pack, don't you?
Exactly. That was part of the reason that I saw Joker. I don't usually buy this, but yeah. Main character from one of my favorite games of all time. Exactly. Exactly. I don't know who Terry is from Fatal Frame / Fury.
Fatal Frame is a completely different game, John.
What a crossover. It's a new game in my head, though. You fight ghosts by hitting them with cameras. Yeah, essentially, you need, it doesn't make sense that they were working on a different character to the extent that they were like, shelve it, we'll bring out the Fire Emblem one, because it's so popular in Japan, and people just think of the US, where it's like, I only know of one Fire Emblem game, and that's the one that just came out, and there are so many characters that I don't know.
Isn't Three Houses one of the highest selling Fire Emblem games as well?
Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, yeah,
it's insanely popular for a Fire Emblem game, which means it was almost inevitable that they'd want to rep that.
Exactly. So. And some people were even complaining, well, it's not my favorite character from Three Houses. That game has 30 characters, all with different things. They're not going to just give it to one.
There is no winning at this point, is there?
Especially when it's a game specifically about picking sides. It's not like some of the other Fire Emblem games where it's just let's keep on going and pick up your party along and choose your favorites as you go. Now, this specifically pits you against basically to pick your team and stand by it.
Yeah.
So if you just picked one of those teams, you're isolating so much of the fan base.
Yeah, you couldn't have thrown Edelgard in as the character from Fire Emblem 3 and expected everyone to be happy with that.
No,
Not
exactly.
that they'd have been happy anyway. There's absolutely no pleasing some people, apparently.
The thing they have done, which is quite clever, is given Byleth essentially all of the main characters' weapons to use as specials. So essentially you get some rep in that regard.
Man, some of that stuff looks absolutely disgusting. I haven't seen it in practice, and it's going to take a few months for people to figure out exactly where Byleth's kit stands. But oh boy, some of that stuff looks pretty good.
So pretty much, it's essentially, weren't they specifically also pointing out like how you could beat him as well, or her?
Yeah, Sakurai did go to the effort of going, hey, here's some obvious weaknesses, which are just some character, use a character who can grab, use a character with a reflector, use a character with counter, like all the other Fire Emblem characters. Pretty simple stuff, really, if you think about it.
Also, I tell a lie, I'm afraid Piranha Plant was not included in the Fighter's Pass. It is now just a separate purchase.
Back on that, though, the thing about Byleth being a DLC character is, unless you bought the whole pack of 5 fighters without knowing what all they were, which was always kind of a risky move, you don't necessarily have to have Byleth in your game if you don't want to.
Exactly. Or him. Them. I think them. I have no idea. Well, I did that because I was just like, I just want the Joker. I just want Joker. And what's that? I've played too much of this game. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's the concept of lost potential in the fact that somehow Byleth is taking up a slot that could have been used for some other character.
They have Banjo-Kazooie and someone from a game that came out in... The last time it was relevant, there were arcades that weren't in Japan.
Yeah, I didn't remember this much controversy happening over Piranha Plant. Because people like, that's stupid. We love this. But yeah, I think the problem, and that's a Mario character, which, there's lots of Mario representation. But I think, yeah.
I will just say, fighting game communities can sometimes be a bit toxic. Nintendo communities can be extremely toxic. So put that all together. Basically, this is the American English-speaking internet, I'm saying. Essentially, God's so toxic. Gets so toxic. And yeah, they will complain about so many things. So much complaining. Well, speaking of complaining, Thomas, do you love to complain about mobile games?
I really don't. I really wish I didn't have to complain about mobile games, but oh boy.
Okay, we're not going to... Okay, down, boy, down. So, I was just going to come up because I had a wonderful example in the week that we weren't recording of the popularity of Japanese mobile games. So, I think I found this one which currently has Joker in it to promote the re-release of Persona 5 or Persona 5 The Royale with cheese that is coming out currently or very, very soon in Japan. We still have to wait a while to an actual English translation, and my Japanese is in no way play that game. Also, I don't have a PlayStation. Found it. It was.
Hey.
I just had to scroll down. No, it is Another Eden, which has 1 million plus downloads on the Japanese Android Google Play Store. A modernized classic RPG beyond time and space, and you can currently get Joker essentially in it. And it kind of, obviously from all the things, it looks like a very classic 4-person RPG, which is just all of these mobile games. And yeah, so that is an example. So one right now, relevant. But no, also, essentially, me and one of my teachers, we gave some of our first year students, okay, you need to do a presentation about a thing. Essentially, they need to do show and tell, and that's it. That was their winter homework. They need to work out, they need to write down a show and tell, which they'll then present to the class. So we go through checking their first drafts after handing it in and going, who's forgotten their homework? I did, in fact, try to teach the class. I've forgotten my homework. The dog ate my homework. I found that funny. I was like, this is a useful phrase, but not for English.
Oh, yes. I can't imagine what my life would be like if I didn't know the phrase, the dog ate my homework.
I think in Japanese it'd be something like, I can't remember what homework is, but it's something de inu tabemashita or something. I feel like dog, I can't know. I know some of the words, but putting them together, no. So essentially, we were reading through these and got the usual ones like, I want to go to Canada. This is my favorite place. Whatever. I want to go to the United States. I really like this video game. But one of those this video games was, how shall I say it? It's another one of these things, the games that Thomas loves so much.
Mm-hmm.
I checked it out. It has over 1,000 characters. And he was writing in English that one of the most popular parts is the collaborations. The collaborations with other games.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the thing that you have so much that the main focus of the game that this child wanted to talk about, no, I say child, they're like 16, 17, that he wanted to write about is the fact that people from other games and franchises are present in this game. And it just looked like it looked like one of the worst of the worst. But this Thomas, this is his favorite game.
Uh-huh. Any idea what it's called?
I did, because I wrote it down. Oh, you're gonna love the name of this game. Wait, what? Because I found it, and then it was like, did you mean this? And I'm like, of course I didn't mean this. Oh no, there we are. I'd spelt it slightly wrong. Would you like to know what the game's called, Thomas?
Is it Raid Shadow Legends?
It's not. But it's one of my favourite games that's breaking up now. We're not big enough that they'd pay us.
I wouldn't accept their money anyway. It's a terrible game.
It's a terrible, terrible game. No, this is Pokodan.
What? Pokodan?
It's Pokodan.
Okay, this I gotta look up. What on earth is it? Is it even on the Western store?
I doubt it.
Is it just Pokodan?
It's actually really difficult to find when not writing in Japanese. Oh no, I found it. Yeah, I doubt it will be on the. I found it on the App Store. I found it on the Japanese App Store, and his Google Translate. Here's the thing: the RPG of tracing puzzle that is soaring in popularity is coming up. So it's a slidey doody daddy game.
That sounds exactly like the blurb that appears on the Western Google Play Store whenever you look at an RPG. Oh god, this is barely even English.
Oh yeah, good point.
They do not have great localization teams, which is not to be surprising because they are usually just mobile game studios.
But I think it has it's trying to boast it has over 2,000 characters.
Of course they do. Of course they do. Why wouldn't they? That's their main source of monetization. The point is that you want to have all the characters.
Yep, but there you are. That is Pokodan. What a game. Oh, notably, in-app items, the costs can either be from the minor 120 yen. Oh, this has over 1 million installations, by the way.
I'm not surprised.
In-app purchases, I will literally say Pokodan, so it's not Pokemon, it's Pokodan. But also just the main characters at the front are obviously just a ripped-off Digimon Charizard, a unicorn, a fiery onion that's attempting to be the slime from Dragon Quest, and just... Oh, God. If you can find it, all power to you. It also, for some reason, in English comes up as Pokolon. But yeah, you can have purchases in this game, Thomas, just so you know, from 120 yen, which is about the equivalent of £1, probably about 80 cents or something, 70 cents in the US, up to 10,000 yen an item.
No, thank you.
That's £80.
That's actually not that expensive as far as some in-app purchases go these
But
days.
that's per item.
That is per item. Oh my god.
I will say the Star Wars version of this, Star Wars Heroes, that I'm playing too much of at the moment, that one has an in-app purchase that is £99.99. But I will say that essentially gives you like all the character. That essentially just buys the game for you. Like it puts you to almost max level. It gives you almost every single character's at max level as well. So I'm not saying I'm justifying it, but they're like, you don't want to play the game, pay £100 not to.
Yeah. Having purchased that transaction and having maxed out everything and gotten all the characters, what would there be left to do exactly?
Usually it's PvP.
PvP.
It's the explanation of all these things. But no, I think we're gonna leave this section. I just wanted to inform people of the wonder in the world that is Pokodan. Thank you, random student, who I can't remember because his name's written in Japanese and I can't read that.
I feel sorry for you, random student.
But he doesn't know. Well, imagine it when he actually plays like good games. Like
if he ever breaks out of the gacha cycle. Yeah.
There's one of my students who just loves playing Final Fantasy VII like all the time. So
I can't argue with that. I hope they're super excited for the remake.
Or not. Or maybe they're playing the remake. Maybe their uncle works for not Nintendo, but whatever. Maybe that's why he's secretly a game tester. It's time, Thomas. I'm hungry. Snack break. This is the continuing, actually, only consistent section in our show in which I eat Japanese food. Though I've been trying to get more healthy things because I've tried to be on a diet since New Year. So what I've got is essentially potato chips right now, or crisps, as I will natively call them. Bloody, the whole thing's 300 calories. I'm not eating all of these. Also, I've just had dinner, listeners. We record these after I have dinner. So that's why there were usually quite a lot of sweet things, because I was like, oh, I'll buy this and I'll have it for dessert.
A little bit of pudding. Exactly.
So these are Jagariko by essentially the very well-known store Calbee, and it's essentially their crisps or potato chips, once again for our American listeners, that are like in thin sticks, almost like Pocky, and you get them in a cup. They are so popular. They are so popular here. I see students eating these all the time. They look like an instant noodle cup, like it even has the silver wrapping on top. But no, I will say these are so popular. When I was in the 100 store earlier, there's essentially, you could buy a snack preserver, which was like a properly sized lid just to fit over these kind of pots. So yeah. So I got the sarada. I got the salad version. So let's open this up. Yeah, they just... Now, this might only mean things to people from the UK, but if you ever had the crisps that were... They were almost like salt and vinegar shards. I don't know how to call them.
They were called French fries, weren't they?
Yeah, something like that. They're not like the Walker's French fries ones, but like the ones that are almost really crumbly. They look almost exactly like that. Apart, these ones are flecked with bits of green because it's salad flavor.
How healthy?
No, I just told you, 300 calories.
Only have one then.
Why are these so popular?
Oh,
Well, it's not. I will say they are very potato-y, so that's obviously where the stuff comes from, because they are just potato. But this, like, there's almost no salt on them, which is probably good, but they just taste of like slightly unsalted crisps. With these ones have salady flavor. I assume some of the other ones might have I might have got. I was like, oh, salad. Only rookies get the salad ones. But no, they're thoroughly underwhelming. For something that has such a hold on the market, I'm truly shocked. Because these are huge. This is like the big brand as well. I didn't get like off-brand. I didn't get like off-brand Jagavico.
How could you?
I don't know. I'll take a quick pic inside so people can see when I eventually upload these or not. Thomas had a good idea of putting these all on Instagram, which would probably be a good idea because it means less work for me.
Yeah. I mean, where else are we going to put these? We were going to put them on Facebook or maybe Twitter, but...
If you'd like them on any of those, actually contact us on those things. Which one do you use? Please.
We really need to know. We've no idea what we're doing.
We're young people, but we are in no way the youth.
Exactly.
And with that was Snack Break. That was really disappointing. And to continue with being really disappointed, it's Tom's review of Carole Tuesday.
Oh, you've set me up there already.
Yep. I will say we have been recording for 40 minutes already. You have 10.
Okay, great. So,
if you can do it in less, the listeners will love you even more for it.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll definitely give them time for an accurate assessment of the show if I summarize it in 5 minutes. Anyway, so this is more or less a follow-up to last week's episode where we went over the Crunchyroll Awards, and Carole Tuesday, along with Demon Slayer and Vinland Saga, received a lot of praise and quite a few nominations. And I just so happened to have been watching Carole Tuesday up to that point and had some differing opinion on the worthiness of some of those nominations.
So the background of Carole Tuesday is essentially it's a Netflix produced anime, I think. I'm not perfectly sure on that. Thomas might know more. But essentially following two women, Carole and Tuesday, and basically their quest for music in what I know, essentially a world where creativeness and music has started to be almost done exclusively by robots.
You're right. That is the setup. This is a animation done by Studio Bones, a celebration of their 20th year, I believe, and also in collaboration with can't remember what the music label is, but also a celebration of their 15th anniversary. And it's created by the same guy who did shows like Cowboy Bebop, stuff like that. So there's a lot of pedigree going into this show.
There's so much pedigree, the pedigree.
Explains why it's pretty hyped to begin with. Just in that. So I think
it's only licensed by Netflix, so it's only in the West it's Netflix. In Japan it's different.
Yeah. And I think it's certainly worth a look at if any of that sounds interesting to you. The first episode's a really good hook, so I'd look into that.
Yeah, and the man whose name you forgot is Shinichiro Watanabe, or Watanabe Shinichiro. Basically one of the most renowned...
did I commit anime heresy again?
Anime heresy. Just a second, I need to put on my... Okay, I got my wet weather gear on. I'm ready for the storm. Let's go.
Okay, so I need to point out at the beginning, this is actually a pretty good show all around. I'm going to criticize it a little, but everything that Carole Tuesday does, at worst, it just does pretty averagely. It's overall great. The music in particular, which is really what you're going there for, is fantastic. I love it. I've got it on my playlist. I'm going to be listening to it for quite some time. If you only watch this show for the music, that's perfectly fine, and I think you'll have a good time with it.
But it achieves, it seems, the worst curse there can be. Mediocrity.
It is a little mediocre in places. It does some things quite well. I quite like the message behind the show when I can decipher it.
Is it friendship?
It's a little bit of friendship, but that's not the key point of the show.
It's 2002 Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah.
It's any shonen anime. No, and it avoids a lot of the trashier and less appealing parts of anime. It's not like complete geek bait or anything like that. It does seem to be like a pretty legitimate storytelling thing. I think it fits perfectly well into what Netflix is looking for in an anime. It's pretty safe, pretty acceptable for all audiences. I think it's a pretty nice watch for anyone who's a little bit cautious about anime or just wants something less tropey.
Or actually, I assume.
Yeah, it's got surprisingly relevant themes, especially for a Western audience as well, because it includes things like politics that involves a lot of algorithms, a sharp rise in conservative values, anti-immigrant propaganda, a sort of, especially for us in the UK, it's got the move of a political separation from an old ally, in that Mars, where this show is set, has a politician who's raising interest in separating from a trade agreement with Earth, and that
could hardly go wrong. That sounds like it'll go great.
And it also involves a lot of things like police overreach and unnecessary brutality and stuff like that. So I think there's stuff in here for people in the West as much as it is in Japan.
Okay, Thomas, you've given us a set of good stuff. You are preparing the, shall we say, the bread of the poo-poo sandwich. It is now time for, as one of my old history lecturers used to say, it is time for the chocolate cake to hit the fan.
Yeah. Okay. So, as great as all that stuff is, the actual episode-to-episode writing didn't really work for me. I'm just going to put that out there.
Why did it not work for you, Thomas?
Well, there's various factors involved in here.
This is the internet. We cannot be unsubtle. We cannot be. This is the internet. We have to be strong. We have to go, I hate all anime with people with ringlets in it. And that's it. This writing involved ringlets. Therefore, I'm out.
Okay. Well, let's start with the basics. First things first. You know that setup about two friends taking on artificial intelligences running the music industry?
Yeah, it's Terminator 2. No, wait.
That's not a real thing. That doesn't actually go anywhere. That fades pretty quickly in the first few episodes, if it was ever there to begin with.
That was a really interesting topic. Oh,
it was. And the story goes in different directions. But it keeps branching off in different directions and never really hits like a main through line for the whole story. The first 12 episodes I think are the most consistent, but that's mostly because it's character setup and then going straight into a tournament arc in the vein of an X Factor or a American Idol or something like that. And it's kind of hard to mess up a tournament arc. Yeah. Let's be real. So there's that, but beyond that, the storytelling feels less like actions and consequences, but more like, here's a thing to do in this episode. Let's go do it. Okay, we did it. Move on to the next episode. They don't really feel an awful lot of connections. They just feel like there's a lot of stuff that's just happening for the sake of happening. And in that way,
Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo. Oh.
Let's not get into that. That's a different controversy for a different day.
Fight. Sorry.
Yeah. So
I'm just saying they had to put Ed in a box for the last episode of Cowboy Bebop, because what do we do with this?
Down, John, stop, John. We've got 5 minutes, John. Calm yourself.
Music. Good anime. Also, the dub is really good. Yes.
Anyway. Some episodes can feel kind of awkwardly segmented because of how the story is structured. So instead of spreading out storylines over multiple episodes for some characters, it can be they just get a whole storyline done in one. So for like Tuesday, she has a whole episode where she's building up a romance with a character, and then that's just boxed into that one episode. That's not something that's consistent throughout the show. And this can vary from character to character. I think Angela has a storyline that sort of is a consistent flow between episodes. That one's a little less boxy, but especially for like Carole and Tuesday, the main characters, it feels very segmented. There's a little bit of repetition in some of the ideas. In the first half of the show, we have Tuesday dealing with a very aggressive and very obsessive fan, and that leads to Tuesday getting hurt at one point, and then that's sort of resolved, but just kind of ends. And then in the second half, Angela instead gets a violent stalker, and you're just like, okay, I get that this is probably quite a big thing in the music industry for artists, but this is the second time it shows up. There's a worse experience, however, where we have one episode that's dedicated around a character called Flora, who was a really famous singer, but has recently hit on hard times. She's doesn't sing anymore. She's lost all her money. She's lost all her friends. She's pretty devastated. And the episode's about picking her back up. And then literally the next episode, a different character called Ertikan, who's a very top DJ, has all his money stolen. And then he loses all his friends, and he loses his house, and he gets depressed. And it's the same storyline, essentially, but with a different character. And they're right next to each other. So it feels a little awkward.
This also just feels, this feels almost essentially like Netflix is exactly the wrong people to have licensed this. Because they all sound very bottle episode-y, which is it tends to work on TV. Because you want some very small stuff overlapping. But especially if you're watching on something like Netflix, where like you can sit and watch most of the thing all at once. Like, obviously, it didn't come out all at once on Netflix. It came out episode by episode. But now, especially with the binge culture it feels like that is not good for it.
Yeah, I can see this working a little better week to week if you've not been stewing on the episodes. But I was watching one of these a day, and it was a little awkward for that. But that's not too dissimilar to some other things. Cowboy Bebop is pretty episode by episode. Same with Violet Evergarden and Cannon Busters.
But I will say, one, Cannon Busters isn't very good. Two, Cowboy Bebop is from the late 90s. So, and essentially, I think they're trying to replicate something. Obviously, it's an anniversary show. They're trying to replicate something that is from an era of TV, an era of stuff that is, like, we've gone past. Especially, like, Cannon Busters and things. That is... Like, you need to do something with the formula. And from what you're saying, it doesn't sound like they really do.
They don't really do much of anything, really. There's carrying on from that Ertigan rant, that is emblematic of a complete absence of any sort of consequence really going on for most of the story. That one episode where he goes bankrupt, loses all his friends, and has a complete identity crisis. By the end of the episode, he's got all his money back, all his confidence back, his friends are all back. It's as if the whole thing never really happened. But that's pretty consistent with all the characters, in that only one or two of them really end up in a different place from where they started.
Oh, wow. And these are 20-minute episodes, yeah? These are
20-minute episodes.
Oh, wow. So that's rapid.
Yeah, it was a bit weird. And just overall, the character writing is weak. Like I said, Carole Tuesday don't really struggle or have to deal with consequences. They just sort of do things, and it's fun to watch, sure, but it's not like it's not as engaging as a story, because they just sort of write songs. You sort of see that happening in montages and background, but they're not really, experiencing life as either a struggling artist or dealing with the consequences of fame. It's just sort of, they write songs, they become successful. It just sort of happens, and it's all smooth sailing.
But you said about those two random stalkers. Isn't that the consequences of fame?
Yeah, it's like that. And I can see where you're going, but I don't really know. It doesn't... there is that thing with Tuesday Stalker where it's supposed to trigger her character development to become more assertive and be able to speak her mind more, because the problem with that stalker's interaction is that Tuesday is unable to say no to the stalker and turn them down.
I'm just going to say that's a bit of a messed up way for character development. Just me saying, she needs to learn how to be more assertive. She needs to.
Yeah, the whole situation is messed up, but I don't see any real growth coming from it. Tuesday remains a fairly stationary character. She's pretty static throughout the whole thing. Same with Carole. Things happen to these characters and they experience shifts in dynamics and relationships and they meet new people and do new things. But they're still pretty much the same. They don't grow or change or anything.
And I'm just going to have to ask you to sum up, to conclude with your final arguments.
Okay, so Carole Tuesday is a great show with great music. Apart from the fact that it feels like the story is pretty much background noise. You can probably have this show in your background, and you're not missing an awful lot of happening. It's fairly enjoyable. The colors are bright. The setting's fun to look at. If pretty under-realized, the sci-fi elements are pretty hit or miss, and kind of irrelevant. This show feels like it could happen in like modern day LA or London or whatever if you really wanted to, and it wouldn't make any real differences.
I really hate that. I will say there are so many places that it's sci-fi. Do you do anything with the setting? No, none whatsoever. Or it's fantasy, but in real life. I've been reading a set of books, not anime, but very quickly, called the Temeraire series, and it's essentially the Napoleonic Wars, but what if dragons? And they essentially rewrite loads of history to the fact like dragons are just involved. And also they rewrite the society of different cultures and stuff around how they interact with dragons. That's realizing the fact that there is an entirely different thing. Like, humanity doesn't evolve into the same thing if just dragons exist. And I feel like that's the same issue you have here.
Yeah, because it does use like tech for various things, but maybe it's just my particular preferences for sci-fi, but I like sci-fi stories to be about those things rather than just be a setting for character stories that...
Or at least part of it, or at least involved.
Because the very element of Carole and Tuesday being traditional songwriters with an old guitar and a keyboard in a world with AI, like you said, sounds like it's the setup for conflict and an interesting contrast. But when all the people, everything they run up against is other people who just sing, and it's about their singing and not about the rest of the creative process, the sci-fi elements kind of get lost and are a bit disappointing. Like, there's the whole plot point of Mars wanting to separate from Earth, apart from the fact that doesn't... that's more about the character making bad political decisions than the actual separation of Mars from Earth as a trade state. So it could happen it could just happen as a country wants to be more isolationist, or a state in a country wants more powerful local government and removing some of the federal stuff.
So what you're saying, Thomas, is it's just music, space hipsters, and we shouldn't care at all. And on that note, it's time to end the show because we went over our 10 minutes a good 8 minutes ago.
There's a lot to unpack here. I still like the show. It's just weak in the elements I really wanted it to shine.
And I'm sure we'll hear more about it when season 2 inevitably gets announced.
Oh, do I have something to say about that, though?
Okay, down boy, another time.
But now the end card, John.
We've been listening, you've been listening, I've been listening to Thomas, but you've been listening to Geeks and Gaijins. Please make sure you check us out. You can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, get us on Facebook, Twitter. We have a YouTube account. We also stream on Twitch, generally Saturdays and Sundays, or when we feel like it. More episodes uploads each Wednesday. Please subscribe. And that's all. Do you have anything more to say, Thomas, before I cut you off?
To be continued in your mind.
Dun, dun, dun. That's a Persona theme.